to hold and... I should start again, shouldn't I? Because you were just sat there like that at the start. It'd be a bit weird, wouldn't it? You should hold and give, but do it at the right time. But the right time is now to do a podcast about that there football. Welcome back to the Hold and Give Football Podcast. I am Ross Tweddell, or as the Germans like to call me, Lord Horse Tweddell. Just been to Borussia Dortmund and back. Many confirmation email kicked off with, Dear Lord Horse Tweddell.
It makes you sound like some kind of like dock worker, and I'm into it.
A dock worker, not a aristocrat.
What kind of aristocrat can you imagine called Lord Horse?
All of them. Hey, hello there, I'm Lord Horse Tweddell. How are you doing? You know how it goes.
Saying that, yeah, wasn't the... I don't know if he's still involved with Arsenal, but was it the former chairman who was Sir Chips Keswick?
You've just made that up.
No, Sir Chips. Sir Chips was involved because Arsenal used to be like Lady Fotherington Smythe and all that, wasn't it? It was like proper like hoity-toity families had owned Arsenal for years and years, but yeah.
Yeah.
Sir Chips Keswick.
Sir Chips Keswick and Lord Horse Tweddell. So Chips, as you take a sip from your little tea mug there, very dainty, how are you doing today?
I'm all right, thank you. It's a couple of days before I've got a week off because we all know I love, avoiding work. But apart from that, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm delightful, just getting back in the swing of things after a life-shortening 3 days in Dortmund. Many pints were had, many sausages were had. Sometimes at the same time. I had a great time, though. What a trip it was.
How was it seeing the yellow wall in person? Was it all it's cracked up to be?
Yeah, especially, it's like there's a scent. I didn't realise, by the way, they get in there around about 2 hours before kickoff, the yellow wall, just to start creating the noise, and when the players go out and warm up, then they start with the drums and whatnot. But yeah, the central section, like right from the top to the bottom, the central section of the yellow wall didn't stop the entire 90 minutes, and I assume the 2 hours before kickoff as well, when they first got on the ground, it was everything it was cracked up to be. I was sort of like, the yellow wall was to my right, and the Newcastle fans were to my left at the other end of the ground, so like each end, obviously. Couldn't hear the Newcastle fans, just heard the yellow wall all the way through.
Boss. Oh, I mean, result aside, it's, it must have been a hell of an experience.
Oh, yeah. It's a bucket list stadium, isn't it? Get to experience that and go and see your own team as a little Brucey bonus in the Champions League. I'm one of those Newcastle fans who doesn't expect anything from any Champions League game, so I was just there for the crack, me. I'm glad I got to see it. Never thought I'd get to see it 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, because I think as soon as the draw was announced, you messaged me saying, I'm going to Dortmund. Whether I get a ticket to the game or not, I don't care. I'm going to Dortmund.
And big ups the best travel, I think it was called. It's like an official Dortmund club thing, which we booked through, like, is people from Newcastle with Newcastle postcodes and whatnot. We still got tickets via that way, and the home end got this €90 RRP shirt as part of the deal. Got a prepaid card to use in like the bars in the stadium with €20 loaded on. Got a prepaid card for the merch shop with €10 loaded on, which I used to get horse on the back of my shirt. The Horse Tweddell. So I got Horse 9 on the back of my Dortmund shirt. What else did you get? You got a tour of the Dortmund Museum. Obviously a match ticket. You got a night in a 4-star hotel. So like an 18-minute walk away from the ground, there was a 4-star hotel called the Dries. I forgot what the actual name of it is now because I spent the entire 3 days. Let's go to the Dries Mertens.
Dries Mertens, yeah.
So it's the Dries something. I can't remember what it was actually. But yeah, 4-star hotel. Dressed to the nines I was. It was fantastic scenes. But yeah, all that was for like £250. Like a €90 shirt, everything I've just mentioned there. 250 quid. Couldn't believe my eyes.
I nearly swore then when you said 250. I thought you were going to say hundreds upon hundreds with you saying it was bucket list as well, but 250 quid, you can't say fair enough.
Yeah, we were pricing up tickets and all the dodgy websites, your touters and whatnot. The sort of website where you buy the ticket for like €250, for example, is the one we saw, and then there's a €70 like charge on top of the €250 because these people are absolute bastards. We were on the brink of buying one of those tickets each in the yellow wall. Which would have been a very, very, very bad idea in hindsight. But then at the last second, me pal somehow came across this. It's through an official like Borussia Dortmund club thing. So I went and booked that, and it was unreal. I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry.
The sneeze of a horse there. I've never been to Germany to watch football. A couple of years ago, I was seeing a nice young woman who was really into the kind of the grassroots side of football and how it can serve community. And she really wanted to go over, but It never happened, unfortunately. We said our farewells and we rode off into the night in separate directions. But yeah, she was just like, oh, do you want to read me thesis on football? I was like, yeah. She's like, what have you written about? And she's like, oh, well, I'm from not Burnley. Where's the good black pudding from?
The good black pudding?
Yeah.
I've got no idea.
Oh, my mind's just gone
Morrison's.
It's that kind of with it's that kind of
all right
area. But she was also like really into St. Pauli as well. So she was like, let's go to St. Pauli. He's like, yeah, let's do that. And then it never happened. So one day I will go to St. Pauli and I'll go to Dortmund and I'll go to, Mönchengladbach. They were my team as a kid for reasons I can't tell you, but they just were.
Fair enough. One thing I was shocked about, because obviously I was there for the 3 day, like the day before kickoff, the match day itself, and the day after it as well for like 3/4 of the day. Dortmund has got nothing going on apart from this, world-class football team. The second biggest tourist attraction on TripAdvisor, which we nearly went and did just for the S's and the G's, the poo words and the giggles, was a steel factory. You could get a guided tour of a steel factory, go and watch some metal being made, processed and all that kind of stuff. That's the second biggest tourist attraction. Because I'm telling you, if I don't know who organised it, but I'm guessing you saw the footage of like the market square in Dortmund where they had like thousands of Newcastle fans just drinking and having a good time before the match itself. If that wasn't happening there, you're struggling. On the Monday night, all the bars closed at 9 p.m. Wow. Apart from a couple of dodgy ones down the back streets, which we found, one Irish bar included, which was called Miners, I think. ERS, obviously. But there was an Irish bar called Miners. We stayed up until 2, so we had a great time in there. But yeah, everywhere shuts at 9, nothing going on. Steelworks is the second biggest tourist attraction after Borussia Dortmund Football Club.
See, that was the idea I had of Newcastle before I moved there. For industrial city, everywhere closes at 9. Apart from I'm only kidding. I love Newcastle.
Yeah, it's nice. But yeah, you might be thinking the game was a disappointment. I was absolutely arseholed. I don't know if you saw the picture where you could buy 6 pints at once. So I was getting the pints in by the 6 with my prepaid card. It was absolutely fantastic. But as I say, life shortening because I assumed that the combination of beer and red meat and nothing else for 3 days isn't the best for you.
No, I've only been to Germany once, and this was with all my naughty mates. And I, as a straight edge lad, spent the entire time eating kebab meat and burgers, and I felt rough. Never mind throwing whatever else you want on top of that. So, yeah, I'm glad you're in one piece.
And a top tip as well: if you do go to an event like that on the market square, and if you do drink the alcohol, don't go to the kiosks where they've got the pints, like where they've. It was wonderfully efficient, by the way. This isn't just a German stereotype, wonderful efficiency, no nonsense. I've never had a bar experience like it by going to the little places they had set up inside the market square. The pints were ready to go all the way through. We were there for like 6 or 7 hours, all the way through the day. The pints are ready to go, but there was 2 supermarkets around the corner that were selling crates of 20 for crates of 24 for €20 a pop instead of paying €6 a pint. So the amount of crates on that square was biblical. So there's a top tip: go around the corner to a shop and get yourself a crate. It was get the proper plastic crates with the big large bottles in them. Oh, it was Germans. I was saying that we were on a bus that had laminate flooring, just a public bus, but it had lovely like grey/beigey, like a beigey grey laminate flooring. It told you when your stop was. Like there was a big screen at the front. There was a speaker on there. They do everything so much better than us over here. We the English are crap.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And the trains are on time as well. Anyway, this is a football podcast. Clive, over there in Liverpool, what happened on this day in football history?
Oh, let me tell you, Ross Tweddell, on November the 15th, which is the day we're recording, double checking, yes it is, November the 15th, 1969, we had the first ever league game broadcast in colour in the UK.
Oh.
And of course, Liverpool, we beat West Ham 2-0, so get that up, yeah.
Do you reckon West Ham were playing in the home kit? Because I reckon, do these days the West Ham have to go in the away kit? Because if you squint really hard, the blood red of Liverpool is ever so slightly similar to the claret of West Ham.
I want to say they would, yeah. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the old claret and blue ever turning up in Anfield, but yeah. But 2-0 in 1969, so yeah.
Who scored?
I didn't even check. Ron Yeats.
A routine win. Ian St. John. I'm trying to think of players who might have played back then. That's a bit before Emlyn Hughes' time. Is it 69?
No, Emlyn Hughes probably would have been involved, yeah.
What else happened? I'll Google it quickly.
Well, in 1994, after 4 managers in as many years, Tottenham Hotspur realised that they needed the most powerful mullet in football steering them. And in came QPR's Jerry Francis as their new manager.
A man who kept it. He's still got the mullet today, hasn't he?
It's even more fearsome now, if anything. Yeah?
It's disgusting when he turns up on Sky Sports, isn't it? And he's just sat there with his spiky bit at the front and his party going on at the back, acting like there's nothing going on when he's just sat there exuding all kinds of Kavorka that few men can ever exude.
I bet his collection of grumble and mucky films, it must be breathtaking.
I've got the lineups and the scorers, by the way, obviously on the 15th of November 1969. Only 39,668 people at Anfield that day, which is a bit of a disgrace, in my opinion. Tommy Lawrence was the goalkeeper, who I think is the guy who went round on social media where the guy was like, oh, who are you? And he's like, oh, I used to play for Liverpool. I was in the FA Cup final and whatever, yeah. So big up Tommy Lawrence. And then we had Chris Lawler, Tommy Smith, Ron Yeats and Emlyn Hughes Emlyn Hughes is listed as defender / midfielder. Obviously, this will be the ye olde formations. Ian Callaghan, Peter Thompson, Steve Peplow, all your midfield. Bobby Graham, Ian St. John, and Jeff Strong. Oh, your forwards there. Jeff Strong. And the goals were scored by Bobby Graham and Chris Lawler.
Okay, so I was nowhere near my Ron Yeats shout.
He was on the pitch, I guess. But Roger Hunt was on the bench for Liverpool as well. Strong team.
Sir Roger? Yeah, Sir Roger.
How old was he? That'd been at the start of his career, would it have been, or would he?
No, I think he was... I want to say Roger Hunt was the only Liverpool player involved in the 66 World Cup squad. I want to say.
What's he on the bench for, then?
Well, he was on the bench in the World Cup, wasn't he? Here's where I'm completely wrong. But anyway, also on November the 15th in history, it's we've got 2 birthdays today. It's the birthday of Andy Gray, Tekaboo, and all that.
Thiago Motta.
Oh, what a hat, son! It's Gustavo Poyet's birthday as well.
Oh, that prick. I hate him. 99-2000 season, FA Cup semi-final, Newcastle versus Chelsea. He scores this header that nobody else could bloody score, but Gustavo Poyet always... I don't know if he always seemed to score against Newcastle, or if I just watched that season review VHS that many times that it always felt he scored against Newcastle, even though it was just one game. I just see that header and Shea Given sort of clawing at the air and not getting near it. Oh, it's heartbreaking scenes.
Shea Given, though, well player. Let's big up Shea Given while we're at it then. Let's take the focus off Gus Poyet.
No, let's put the focus back on Gus Poyet and hope he has a terrible birthday. I saw a Chelsea fan on social media today saying Judas, because obviously he went to Spurs after his stint at Chelsea, so I'll go along with that. Up with the Chelsea fans there.
Yeah. Well, that'll be probably the first and the last time in your life you'll say that.
Is that it for on this day? I say that's a marked step up on what we've had in recent times on this segment.
But even then, I had to throw in 2 birthdays just to kind of round it out because there wasn't much else going on.
Well, what a couple of birthdays away. Once again, Gus Poyet, I hope you have a terrible day. Right, we go on to the Barclays, as we like to call it here. Well, because we're weird. The Premier League, that was game week 12. Chelsea 4, Manchester City 4. It is, it always will be now, I think. A Barclays classic that certainly when I was watching it, I didn't want it to end. What, did you see the full game or was it a match of the day job for you?
It was a match of the day job for me because I spent Saturday with the missus and then Saturday with the missus, Sundays for the lad. No, Sunday I had to do, all pottering around and sorting out the house. So I watched the Liverpool game and then I thought, City are going to walk this. And I was checking it on Twitter and at one point it was 4-3 to City and I didn't bother checking it. I thought, that's that done and dusted then. But how wrong was I? And I watched the highlights and it looked like we say, prime Barclays.
It was a classic Barclays affair. Yes, there were the penalty for the opening goal, which is obviously scored by Haaland. There was a foul on Haaland from Cucurella that was given. But I would argue there was a foul by Haaland on Cucurella before Cucurella's foul on Haaland. Could it have been pulled back for a free kick, in your humble opinion?
I think it could have, yeah. But who knows what the referees are doing these days, Ross? It's an unfortunate constant in life. It was very soft. By the letter of the law, you have to argue it's a penalty. But like you said, I'd have pulled it back.
So would I have. It felt a bit soft, but there we go. Because again, it goes back to that one between Man United and Man City a couple of weeks ago. If that one's getting given, surely we're going to have multiple penalties per game for that same offence.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like we always say, there's just no consistency at all.
No. But of course, Erling Braut Haaland notches, because that's what he does. Then we have Thiago Silva with a lovely deft header across the face of goal to make it 1-1. He could only put it in one place, and in that one place it went. How do you deflect things off a forehead with such precision?
I don't know, because whenever I head a ball, I end up getting a headache and it spings off me like a 50p. So it's almost like I'm not very good at football, and Thiago Silva is very, very good.
He's not bad, is he? Even though he's 57 years of age. Still in the first half, Raheem Sterling makes it 2-1 to Chelsea after what I've put down. I've got the book of cliches out written by Clive F. I've called some pedestrian defending from Gvardiol, which allowed Reece James to tee up Raheem for a tap-in. It was a whirlwind first half. It was a basketball match of a game. It could have gone either way. And just to round off the happenings in the first half, Akanji with the header in first half, stoppage time to make it Desmond. What a time to concede. I think it was the 46th minute. We had some wonderful play from Jeremy Doku, which sort of won the corner from Cole Palmer, which was then whipped in, and Akanji not whipped the header in, he boshed the header in, le-boshed it. But yeah, that was all in the first half. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, especially with Chelsea's attacking. I was. This is going to sound weird coming from me. I was happy to see Sterling celebrate against City, because even though the way he left Liverpool left a sour taste in our mouths, I don't like all this. Oh, I'm sorry. Unless it's a club icon scoring against his former team, just celebrate. Who cares? But it also showed what the thing is with City for years. That Liverpool we've had a lot of success against them in recent seasons. If you go at City, you can get something.
Yeah.
Just go at them. The only thing is, if you score 4, they'll probably also score at least 4. But if you can go at them, just do it.
You've just described the game at Newcastle. Obviously, he's a Newcastle fan. That's what's sprung to mind. Our 3-3 draw at St James's Park last season, where Trippier scored that free kick. That game, we took the game to them when we led twice. I think, on the day. We definitely led once. I can't remember now. I think it went 1-0 City, then 2-1 Newcastle, then 3-2 Newcastle, then 3-3. I think that's how it went. But yeah, you do take the game to City, but the issue is you got to be also somehow, while taking the game to them, not leave yourself open on the counter, which is impossible against them rascals.
Yeah, they're quite good, aren't they? The arseholes.
They are. Opening the second half, Erling Braut Haaland scores with his bollocks and or his arse. Pretty much straight from the restart, as I said there. I was listening to the podcast that Mika Richards, Gary Lineker and Alan Shearer do this morning. They're on the way to work, and Mika revealed they were still checking the goal for handball after the game had ended. Even though Haaland makes contact with his bollocks and or his arse, maybe his gooch, the spall between the balls and the butthole. And it's rolling in anyway, and it nearly touches his elbow, even though he's past the line, the ball's heading in, clearly, and they were still checking for that. If they disallowed that goal when that ball was clearly rolling in the net, never mind if it touches his hand on the line, if they disallowed that, that's the end. That's the end of football.
Yeah, because I didn't see a problem with it. I've got it written down as, I called it a scruffy goal, whereas you've put he scored with his balls. But it's one of those situations, isn't it? Like when they brought in the terminology around the handball rule, where it was just like, is it in a natural position, etc. If you're flying at a ball at 400 miles an hour with your balls, if it collides against your arm, I don't think you're doing that consciously, are you?
No, and especially if you're in front of the ball and the ball is following you into the goal.
Yeah.
God.
Basic physics. That's what these refs need. A lesson in basic physics for us.
Basic physicnomics. Yes, I've written down there, thank the Lord that is James Perch. It was allowed, because that's how holy I am. Then we have Miss Jackson. No, he didn't miss it. He scored his 4th goal in the week. Pounced on a rebound from Edison after a save from a Gallagher drive. What a strike it was. As an FPL player, it's horrible to see Jackson doing well. I had him in the team for the first few weeks of the season. He did next to sweet bugger all, and now he's scoring 4 goals in a matter of days. It's sickening.
Yeah, I think he scored in that opening game against Liverpool, and then did bugger all for a while. Yeah, it seems like, I was going to say, like he's come out of nowhere, but like you said, it was one of those that everyone had just given up on him, and now he's gone, oh, hang on.
Yeah.
I can do this. Let me have a go.
Horrible. Then we see Manchester City take the lead, as Jack had said he would assume, for the fourth. Well, they scored the fourth goal first with Rodri's sort of drive taking the deflection of Thiago Silva into the far bottom corner there. But then Ruben Diaz with all kinds of Marcus Rashford about his Kvoka when he rashly brought down Broja in the box. I saw a lot of people online, of course, they were all Manchester City people saying, oh, he got the ball first. He got the ball first, but then he took the man. You can't lunge in like that and not expect to give away a penalty.
Yeah, I didn't have any issues with it at all. Again, if we need to kind of always remind ourselves about the current laws of the game and not going back to the glory days, because we just sound like our uncles did in the 90s when they're just like, oh, you call that a yellow card in the 70s? That would have been, a rub on the head and get off the pitch kind of thing. You can't dive in like that anymore at all. There was no issue for me when I watched it. I didn't think, oh, let's see what the refs say. Let's see how this goes. It was a penalty.
Yeah. If you're looking at percentages, I don't know why I'm looking at percentages now. He's taken 110% of the man and maybe 40% of the ball. And I reckon that, that's what teeters it over the edge there in the favour of the penalty.
I like that. You were like a young Carol Vorderman.
Thank you very much. The same tits I have as well. I don't know why I said that. That's what many people say about me. He's got the tits of a Vorderman. But yeah, Cole Palmer steps up, who, by the way, I thought he looked the dog's bollocks on the day. Obviously, big Garth Southgate thinks the same because he's called him up to the England squad to replace a couple of players who have dropped out this week. He scored a consummate penalty I've written down here. He's twat at the top corner, Vavavoom.
Yeah, I was surprised when City let him go. Well, and then when Chelsea came in for him as well, I was like, that just seemed like an odd move, and it's already paying off for Chelsea because he's found himself a space in the squad and a space in the starting 11 most of the time. And again, like Raheem Sterling, he celebrated when he scored. Good lad.
Good lad. And I've also got to say, there's nothing in Kovacic celebrating that penalty. I saw a lot of people going, oh, he gave a little fist pump. He didn't. He turned around. He plays for somebody else now. Get over it.
Yeah, it's not a fist pump going, oh, yay, at Chelsea till I die. He was just more like, oh, bastard, I think. They go, oh, rats. We'll get them next time.
But on Cole Palmer, I remember just thinking, I think it's 42 million or something like that Chelsea paid for him. And at the time you're thinking, yes, he scored that goal in the Super Cup, I think it was, where he did the El Bender from a distance. But you're thinking, surely what's like warranting that sort of money being paid for Cole Palmer? But already, the way Poch is playing him sort of as that calm, centre midfielder come striker, that wonderful position we all know. The way he's used him like that, he looks like he belongs, and yeah, it's nice to see, because I don't know why it's nice to see. He just seems like a humble lad.
Yeah, and I think he's going to become the poster boy for this kind of youth wave that Chelsea are on at the moment. But if they can get like a proper spine behind them, they could have the makings of a team yet, Ross. They could.
But Poch is slowly turning it around, I think. So obviously, I think they had their worst start ever in Premier League history, which obviously a lot of headlines were getting written about. But off the back of last season, was it a little bit expected? Off the back of last season, then the turnaround of players, then the new manager, then the start of the season. Was it a little bit expected? Maybe. But yeah, he's turning it around now because he's been given time. Graham Potter's in tatters.
Well, we've been saying that since the start of the league, haven't we? Just if you give him time, he'll turn it around because he is a good manager at the end of the day.
He is. But Manchester...
Imagine if Abramovich was still there, they would have had 6 managers by now.
More on him, the dirty bugger. More on him later. But yeah, it's just horrible. If you're a Chelsea fan, you've obviously had the game of your life there against Manchester City, and you still couldn't beat the bastards. That's the sickening thing about the league this season, because it does feel wide open, but it also doesn't feel like Manchester City have hit their stride yet they're still top of the table.
Only by a point. Only by a point.
But they're still top of the table. And they're not I say they're not playing that well. You know what I'm trying to say there. They're not hitting the dizzying heights of what we've seen in the past.
That's typical Man City for you, though, isn't it? They give you that glimmer of hope, and then they put the afterburners on. That was very Partridge of me, but I'm sticking with it.
Put the afterburners on. Wolves 2, Spurs 1. Spurs took an early lead in this game through Brennan Johnson, and everything looked hunky-dory for Tottenham Hotspur, despite what happened on Monday night against Chelsea, despite the injuries to Jimmy Maddison and Van der Ven at the back, despite the suspension to Doggy at full-back. They were stroking the the ball back like there was nothing the matter. It was a lovely start there for Big Ange's men. And then all of a sudden, you go to stoppage time there. We had Sarabia hitting that 91st minute, 91st minute equaliser. That's how words work, Ross. Like I've written down here, Prime Collins John at the Riverside in 0506. You know the goal I'm talking about, don't you? Throw in, chest, kabang. The ball doesn't hit the deck.
I was not expecting a Collins John shell today. I've got here that I think that's going to be in the goal of the season conversation coming the end of the year. It was sublime. Tottenham looked knackered.
Yeah.
Like you said, ravaged squad.
Not quite ravaged. You're speaking to a Newcastle fan, by the way.
Well, that's true. But and again, with the case of Newcastle, it's here we go for the cliche. The cliche book's open. These days, football, it's not just a team game. It's a full squad game, isn't it, Ross?
Yes, it most certainly is there, Jack Atkins.
Yeah. But I thought, apart from the opening goal where Wolves looked just like open at the back, they deserved the 3 points. Everything I saw of this, they were just on the front foot every time. Spurs didn't look like they knew what to do at times, and like you say, in that first goal was absolutely beautiful.
It's just a shame the way the first goal came about, because Eric Dyer, off the back of that little social media thing where he's walking past the social media guy going, "Oh, you're not going to use this one, are you? Because I'm rubbish. I'm Eric Dyer." He kicked the ball. It was a wayward pass straight out of play, which set up the throw-in, which then set up the through ball to Sarabia, who then did his best Collins John impersonation, not letting the ball hit the floor, but while putting it in the back of the net. Why did it have to happen to Eric Dyer? The game was going so well. As I said, I thought Spurs started off very much on top, but then as the game went on and on and on, I don't know why, I've compared it to when Nigel Pearson was attacked by a pack of wolves, but instead of Nigel Pearson coming out on top, in this instance, the Wolves came out on top and Nigel Pearson perished.
Yeah, I love that story about Nigel Pearson. I remember us having a conversation in the office about who the hardest manager was. And I think I just kept going back to Nigel Pearson saying, yeah, the man literally fought actual wolves. You can give me Sean Dyche drinking gravy for breakfast and Big Sam Allardyce drinking paint thinner. Nigel Pearson fought wolves and won.
Which Spurs did not do, because Mario Lemina helped the ball on its way from a lovely through ball from whoever it was, I can't remember what it was there, to give Wolves on the balance of play at the end of 90 minutes, other cliches included, a fully deserved victory for me, Jeffrey.
Oh, definitely. Also, Jeffrey, I remember, I'm surprised at how kind of Wolves have turned it around, because I think I predicted that the four scrapping it out for relegation, I thought was going to be, I think I said Sheffield, Luton, Forest and Wolves. And Wolves had a bit of, I think, a dodgy start, but recently they've been looking like they're starting to gel again. And if they continue like this, the sky's the limit. But I don't feel scared for Wolves anymore, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. To open the book of cliches once more, it looks like they're making Molineux a bit of a fortress. Because you think about the win against Manchester City, Newcastle somehow left there with a point, even though they didn't quite deserve it towards the end of the game. They've beaten Spurs now as well. I'm sure there's more impressive results in there as well. I just can't think off the top of my head. But yeah, it just feels like them appointing Gary O'Neill in the way Lopetegui left 3 days, I think it was, before the season. It was going to take a bit of time, and it has taken a bit of time, but they are doing well.
Yeah, very well.
And Cunha at the top of the pitch, by the way. Oh, he's not a cliches. He's not a conventional centre forward, but he's a bit of me. Let me tell you, he's a bit of me.
He's a bit of horse all over that pitch.
Hung like one who knows.
You were saying though that they've turned the Molineux into a fortress. We want to talk about fortresses in the Midlands, Ross.
What?
That was a segue to your next piece.
Is it? Oh, Aston Villa 3, Fulham 1. Well, hey, come on now. Thank you very much.
I have my moments. Sometimes I'm good at this.
He says fortress because now Aston Villa have won 13 games on the spin at Villa Park. They have scored 23 goals in their last 6 home games. Now I think the minimum they've scored in the last 6 home games is at least 3 goals a game. which is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stuff. I'm quite jealous of them. Anyway, they find themselves now just 1 point behind Spurs in fifth. Yes, Spurs dropped to fourth with their 2 defeats very recently, which is still, by the way, it's still unbelievable that. Let's not get away from the fact. They're still, I think it's 2 points off the top of the table, potentially. I think, 2 points off the top. Imagine saying, heading into December, basically, which we are now after the international break, that Spurs would be 2 points off the top.
Yeah, I mean, we've said at length about how well Ange has done transforming Spurs, and obviously there was my very non-committal answer the other week when you were just like, could they win the league? And I was like, well, they could, but they couldn't. I still think they'll be in the conversation for top 4 at least. I do think, like you're saying, the squad as a whole is lacking, and they've had a couple of duff performances on the spin now. But even then, it's still a hell of a start for them.
Yeah. Don't know what that was,
Villa.
right? Aston Villa 3, Fulham 1. As I said there, Villa doing very well at home. The link-up play that Aston Villa were playing here through the likes of Diaby, Douglas, Luiz in midfield, and Ollie Watkins up top sometimes was quite scintillating. When do you ever hear the word scintillating other than professional football?
When tucking into a lovely pork chop.
How on earth do you tackle a pork chop in a scintillating manner? Or manner, I should say.
Just get a tender, a little bit of applesauce, some kind of nice, maybe a dauphinoise potato on the side, who knows, and some grilled greens. Oh, scintillating.
My God, right. Anthony Robertson, he's not scintillating. He had an own goal for the opener for Aston Villa after a cross from Yuri Tielemans, who seems to be pulling it round after not being picked at the start of the season. Heartbreakingly so, after the game on social media, Anthony Robinson liked a tweet which was taking the form of a chant which goes as, he can't defend, he can't attack. Anthony Robinson, our fullback. I don't know why I said it like that. That's just not the right tune, is it? Can't defend, can't attack. Anthony Robinson, our fullback. I guess that's how it goes, yes.
Yeah, I felt really bad for him. He had an absolute stinker of an afternoon, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Someone who didn't have a stinker, though, was Big John McGinn, who is neither big nor... He's just not big, is he? He's just a medium-sized John. Medium-sized John scores a lovely goal from the edge of the area, sort of a bender that was in the centre of goal, like where he hit it from, so it was bending away from the goalkeeper. Lovely shape on the shot, and a lovely celebration to boot. I was thinking, wow, he's a massive fan of John Joe Shelvey. That's the celebration John Joe used to do back in the day. Oh my God, do you see he scored from the halfway line at the weekend, by the way, in Turkey?
No.
John Joe Shelvey has tried umpteen times since that goal he scored against Aston Villa for Swansea. Do you remember when Brad Guzan was in nets and he made a right mess of it? He's tried umpteen times. However many number that is, I'm not entirely sure, but it's umpteen to score from the halfway line or just inside the opponent's half. I don't know who he plays for in Turkey now, but he did it at the weekend and it was picture perfect. It was Beckham at Wimbledon. That sort of halfway line goal.
He did something similar in like one of his last games for Liverpool against Chelsea, and we battered them, and he scored an absolute perler. But it just, you could tell every time it's one of those. As soon as you hit it, he's seeing the headlines in his head, isn't he?
Yeah, by doing that, he loves that celebration, doesn't he? Which is what John McGinn did here, which it wasn't a tribute for John Joe Shelvey, scorer of halfway line goals. It was a nice little nod to his little nephew Jack, who was forced to wear eye protectors when he plays football due to his poor eyesight. He's a bit of an Edgar Davids.
What? John McGinn's nephew, Jack?
Jack McGinn, Edgar Davids, it's the same thing. But then Watkins makes it 3 on the counter. I think John McGinn did really, really well once again. He was surrounded by defenders, but he does this lovely little spin like he's Torval McGinn.
You say that, though. I was watching this thinking, like, because I like John McGinn's a class player, but he's a man out of time. I think that's why a lot of us like him, because you hear the name John McGinn, you look at John McGinn, you look at the style of play of John McGinn, you think, oh yeah, I remember when he made his debut in 1995. This was the slowest spin and attack I've ever seen. But it worked. So you can't knock it at all.
It was a wonderful little setup. He then teed up Bailey, who then put it across the goal for Watkins to tap it in. Then there was a nice moment. I thought the game was gone for Fulham, but Raul Jimenez gets his first goal in 33 games since March 2022, which is obviously a nice thing to see after all he's been through with his head and whatnot, because it felt like it was never going to happen.
Yeah. It was nice to see. It was a good goal, and like you said as well, I think it was Anthony Robinson who got the assist as well. So at least he put a bit of glory back on his name. But we're old softies at heart, Ross. We like seeing things like this, don't we?
Yeah, it was nice. 'Cause I like Raul. Well, yeah, I like Raul Jimenez as a player. Just it felt like is he? Can he still do it after? I mean, because can he still do it after that sort of thing? The doubt and like the trepidation that must be through your head whenever you go near anybody after going through something like that must be off the scale when you're actually playing a Premier League game.
Oh yeah, because the second you start second guessing yourself at that level, you're usually done, aren't you? So,
Yeah.
but let's hope it continues.
Way I like Raul Jimenez. Fulham now just find themselves 6 points above the relegation zones as they lost consecutive games for the first time this season. It feels like they're not getting quite going this season, Fulham, compared to last season.
No, I think they've had a couple of lucky results as well. I think back to the opening weekend against Everton. Was the second weekend where they had a draw, and that was only because Everton couldn't finish the dinner. I honestly expected more of Fulham this season. Again, where there's so much more football to be played, but 6 points above the relegation zone is not where I was expecting them to be.
No, they miss Mitrovic, so they do. Who doesn't miss Mitrovic is a team that he never played for, so why would they? It's Everton. The Ev have got no money, but they're all on the beak. They're flying up the table. They're at the 14th now and have won 3 of the last 6, and more crucially, have lost just once of their last 6 because they went to Crystal Palace and they won 2-3, as Jim White likes to say, annoyingly on the radio. Just say 3-2, Jim. That fullback lad, I always mess up the pronunciation of his name. Go on, give it a go. Why don't you?
Well,
Mikalenko, that's his name. He scores the opener a few minutes into the game with a bullet header, cliche once again, from 6 yards out. Then we had Eze taking the piss with, the cliche book once again, a jinking run that draws a foul, and then there's a pen which he took, which he then took the piss with once again, just leaving Jordan Pickford in the mud as he stroked it in the bottom corner.
Yeah, they're usually the type of penalties where I'm just praying that the penalty taker misses it because you're just like, don't be a tit with it. But yeah, it was cool as you like, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's another frustrating one for me because Eze was in the fantasy team for the first couple of months of the season. He didn't do too many points, but now in this game, he's taken all kinds of pisses, even out the referee, because there was another jinking run soon after, which was a shame to see him clearly dive from. He was called out for it. He was given a free kick the other direction instead of being awarded a penalty. He's better than that. He doesn't need to do that. Sort it out, Mr. Eze, because I can't pronounce your first name because I'm an idiot.
It reminds me of Andy Carroll against Newcastle, but obviously...
it wasn't as bad as that.
I was going to say, a much better player, though, where the easier thing was to have a shot on target than go flying down in the box.
Then we have Big Decore making it 2-1 with a nice little tap-in after a wonderfully controlled volley from Mr. Mikalenko, which hit the beans on toast. I guess it was deserved. It looks like they're doing all right now, Everton, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it's the start of the season. They just needed someone who could put it in the back of the net. There's a cliche for you. And obviously, when Calvert-Lewin came back, it kind of galvanised them a little bit. During the week, to give a little sausage into my life, a little peek at how the sausage is made in my life. I've got studio space where I work in town sometimes just to get me out of the house. One of the lads in there is an Everton fan, and I've said to him, it was just like all they needed was a goal scorer, and they'll be all right. And I think they'll be all right. Like you said, was it 3 and 6? Three wins
and 6, lost just once.
I think if you would have asked any Everton fan at the beginning of the season for that kind of form, they'd bite your hand off.
Even if they get 12 points deducted by that's still hanging over their head. Do you reckon they'll still be safe if they get 12 points off?
Yes, only because I have no hope for Sheffield United or
Luton.
Really. Yeah.
Or the other who's
or Burnley.
Yeah, Burnley. That's the other one. Burnley are bottom now, aren't they? Shocking.
It was Bury I was thinking of before, where Black Pudding's from.
No doubt the comments are already there taking the piss out you for not knowing the Black Pudding is from Bury. Up the Black Pudding. Anyway, Edouard, I should say, was on the brink of being taken off, but after a header was looped back into the middle, Tarkowski leaves it for Pickford. Pickford isn't there, and Edouard scoops it into the net past the advancing Pickford. I don't know why I bring it down like
that. Caught me off guard there. Again, he caught them napping, didn't he, Ross?
They really did. Static defending. Idrissa Gana Gueye then pops up with the winner with a lovely finish on the slide, kind of. He was on the run, then sliding at the same time after being slipped in again. A wonderful ball from Decore. Didn't expect the ball from Decore or the finish from Idrissa Gana Gueye. They can't do this sort of thing, these players, but they did it there.
I know Decore's been slagged off quite a lot, but I like him, and he's definitely finding, if not form, he's finding confidence. And like we're saying, as long as you got confidence on your side, an average player could look far better than they are. Not to say that Decore is average, but something's working at Everton at the moment. So if they can just keep that self-belief for us, I can't see them falling off a cliff anytime soon.
You know what it is, though? It's the breakfast of gravel with gravy on top. Gravel gravy, Sean Dyche. I love it. Kasabian, yeah. That's Sean Dyche in a nutshell. Right, elsewhere.
Kasabian.
He loves Kasabian, Sean Dyche, doesn't he? I go to music festivals. I'm from Kettering. I love music.
He was at Glastonbury, wasn't he? Yeah.
So was Carragher, but I think Carragher was in different tents. I don't know what gave me that impression.
Yeah, Carragher was definitely in some kind of deep house tent at 4 a.m.
Off his bonce. Who else was off their bonce was the entire Newcastle United squad, because they didn't start the game at all at Bournemouth, and they went down 2-0. I know there's a lot to be said about playing away in the Champions League in Germany and then having to come back to Newcastle and then having to go all the way to the other end of the country to play against Bournemouth in a matter of days. But still, the players that were on that pitch for me should have done a little bit better. But then again, we did have no less than 12 first-team players missing from this game. Not only because of injury, but also Bruno Guimaraes was suspended from the game as well. But the players on the pitch, I feel so bad for them because they're a lot better than what they showed there. But I think it was the circumstances rather than Bournemouth being excellent. I thought Bournemouth were all right, but I think if Newcastle were just anywhere near their normal levels, they might have got to point out the game, but it's not as if Bournemouth carved open lots of opportunities. Yes, Nick Pope made a fair few saves, but it was largely from sort of pot shots from distance. It wasn't like Bournemouth were cutting open Newcastle at whim. But yeah, it was a bit sad to watch. It was like watching Steve Bruce's Newcastle again, but with a reason for it this time instead of it just being Steve Bruce's Newcastle.
Like a sad old Labrador.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was going to say, go back to Pope. I thought Pope had an excellent game, but like you said, it's not like Bournemouth were just absolutely peppering shots all over the place. But yeah, and I'm surprised at how Dominic Solanke's come on as well, because when we sold him, we thought we pulled the pants down, and after a couple of years of being, has he got? He must have at least 4 or 5 in the league this season.
I think it's 7.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
He's doing all right, isn't he? That second finish, instinct, striker's finish, cliche book.
So, obviously, like you said, you got injuries and suspensions, but what would you be looking to do in the transfer market in January?
Centre-back is a priority, I'd say. Striker is a priority, I'd say. Potentially a winger as well, and I think we'll be all right. But again, it's just, I get the feel, I don't know, I've not seen this said by any other Newcastle fan. I've not seen this said by any journalist who might know better than me, because I've got no ties to the club whatsoever. Kel Surprise, I know. But it feels like to me, Eddie Howe is a manager who demands, or a head coach, who demands like 110% every minute of every day where you're near him. Maybe, just maybe, expect 50% for a bit of the time, just to, because it feels like to me there's that many injuries and there's that many long-term injuries, like muscular injuries and stuff like that. Is he working the players too hard on top of a schedule that's like twice as busy as last season as well? It feels like me that might be the case.
As long as you don't start slagging him if he starts moaning about fixtures, because what you've described
he doesn't do that though. He doesn't do that.
Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, we go 100 miles an hour. We get lots of injuries, and that's the thing though, isn't it? If you are going to go 100% at all time, you have to expect injuries. So I don't know whether it's a case of just getting a better scouting team to find lads who are, not saying that yours are made of crisps, but with a bit
some
more,
of them are
a bit more steel behind them. But I don't know, it's not a bad thing to want your team to go 100% all the time, but like you said, it's just not wholly realistic, is it?
But you get certain top teams, Manchester City's the prime example, where they always seem to have 80% of their first team squad available at all times. And that's got to be something down to the way Pep Guardiola runs the ship in between the games. And I get the feeling the way I guess Klopp sort of falls into this Eddie Howe category as well. The way we both press high up the pitch and that sort of stuff. It's always like, energy. Is there not a different way to attack the schedule, so to speak, without moaning at the schedule? Because Manchester City always survive. Why can't we?
I do think a lot of it is luck as well, as stupid and annoying as that is. Again, open the cliche book, one that we like here. You have to ride your luck, and City, you can get lucky with injuries coming at the right time or whatever, or suspensions coming at the right time. What kind of squads has he been playing in the domestic cups?
What he's got available. It's literally,
really?
been, for the last month or so, it's been what he's had available. And it's like, for example, at Man United away, he left Almiron on the bench. Matty Target got injured within 5 minutes. Almiron had to come on. Almiron at Bournemouth, he's now injured. So he's having to just play whoever he can play. Like, we had 3 goalkeepers on the bench, I think, in Dortmund. I can't quite remember because I was battered, but I think we had 3 goalkeepers on the bench in Dortmund. Obviously, Lewis Miley, who was a 17-year-old kid, he's now our youngest appearance maker in European football. There's a lot of high hopes for him. He seems like a bit of a Michael Carrick the way he plays the game, like centre midfielder, passing the ball about this, that, and the other. But he's having to be thrown in there, even though he had he was out with glandular fever for a couple of months at the start of the season there. So just again, you do mention luck there. It feels like Newcastle have no luck, but I go back to just the way, again, I've got nothing to base this off of other than what you know of Eddie Howe and how he does his work and whatnot. Maybe just, take the, it doesn't have to be 100% all the time. Just, wrap them up a bit in cotton wool.
These bloody perfectionists, what are they like, Ross?
I know, give them a hot bath, a hot chocolate, a nice little massage. Wow.
Well, that sounds lovely, actually. I'll see you in 20 minutes.
But, of course, after the game was bad enough, but then there was some whoppers in the way end who were having a go at Kieran Trippier, who, on one hand, I thought he was fantastic for showing he cares. He was fully justified saying all the lads out there are giving what they can do, which I think they did. I felt a bit weird earlier because I realised when I was saying it, I don't mean like I expected Newcastle to do better away at Bournemouth, but I also expected a little bit more from the performance. Does that make any sense? Because it was clear how tight. Wolves away recently, we were done after an hour. We just hung on for a point in the end. Bournemouth here at the weekend, we were knackered after 10 minutes. It felt like it was just hanging on for dear life. So they are giving what they can. It just feels like, in certain areas, we might have a bit of better quality than Bournemouth. We could give a bit more in terms of sheer quality, as Rafa Benitez used to say back in the day. I don't know.
Do you think you need more leaders in the dressing room then to just kind of whip them into shape on the pitch?
I'm making a right pig's ear of explaining what I mean, I think. I'm trying.
I know.
I'm listening back to what I'm saying. It's not making sense at all because I'm having a go at this fan for having a go at Trippier. Then I'm sort of saying the same thing as the fan. I'm fully on Kieran Trippier's side here. There's a lot of circumstances that mean Newcastle can't be what they want to be at this current moment in time, and it's a big worry for me that there's fans like this guy in the away end who are quickly taking this all for granted. What's happened to the club over the past couple of years? Like a couple of years ago, we're watching Steve Bruce ball, 10 men behind the ball and Alan St. Maximin or Callum Wilson at the other end of the pitch. Oh, just kick the ball to him, it'll all be fine. And now we're smashing PSG in the Champions League and quite, for a long period of time, stayed in the games against Dortmund and Milan. We've got League Cup final, we've got European qualification, we're challenging for that again, which I think is, when you look at the injuries and the start we had in terms of playing, Liverpool and Manchester City and whoever else, Aston Villa in the first month of the season, I think we're batting above our average again with the squad we have available.
Yeah, it's a process, isn't it? It's a building process. Any kind of, to use the term, project, it's going to take a good couple of seasons before it's hitting those high notes. And like you said, battering PSG in the Champions League Cup final. How long's Eddie Howe been in the role? 1.5 seasons before this season?
2 years and a week, actually.
Yeah. So that's no time at all, really. So there's being miffed at losing a game, and there's being miffed at them absolutely thrown in the towel. There's definitely there's a difference between it, but
you've hit the nail on the head there. There is a difference between being sad at the result and then having verbally abusing the players. There's a big difference, isn't there? One gives off a certain sort of expectation and the other gives off something very different. Like, you are taking everything that's happened to the club over the past 2 years for granted. And I hope that's not the case for a majority of Newcastle fans, because it's not for me. I must be the only Newcastle fan in the world who's going into every single Champions League game thinking, we're going to get battered here. I don't care. We're not supposed to be in the Champions League yet. That's 2 or 3 years down the line, this. We've still got Sean Longstaff in midfield, for goodness sake. Jamal Lascelles was there.
No. Horses on the piss, on the piss. Horses on the piss.
I was watching Jamal Lascelles batter Kylian Mbappé the other week, and I couldn't believe my eyes. We're still ahead of time, but yeah, it was just a disappointing day. It was just, I guess you would come to expect it at the end of the day. Everything that had gone on, all the injuries, as I said, 12 first-team players were missing for various reasons. The travel. It was just a bit disappointing that we didn't really have a proper clear-cut chance on the day. I guess that's all I'm saying.
The old cliche as well. I think the international break has come at not the perfect time for you, but I bet you made up for it as a Newcastle fan.
Well, I say that. We've had Bruno, obviously he's available from suspension again, but he's now gone off the paper of Brazil. Joe Linton's gone to Brazil. Thankfully, Callum Wilson's pulled out the England squad, and a couple of other players have had to pull out their international teams, but all the injuries are long-term, all of them. There's not I think we're only expecting Isak back, which I know is only Isak, but there's only one of them, of the 11 who weren't suspended, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. I just hope it's not a case of how working them too hard in between a really hard schedule. But that's not me having a go at the schedule. That's me potentially having a go at Eddie Howe's Kavorka, his chutzpah. I'm not Jurgen Klopp. Be better, Jurgen Klopp, you sour cat. Sour cat?
That's almost problematic, Ross. Moving on.
Oh, God. I was just thinking of a random animal. Oh, my God. Oh, be fine. Right, he's just been a big old sourpuss. I think that's where it came from. Big old sourpuss.
Yeah. There you go, yeah.
Oh, bollocks, right. Other football headlines. Emma Hayes is being confirmed as the head coach of the United States women's national team. The 47-year-old will remain in Chelsea until the end of the season before taking up the new role. She replaces Vlatko Adonvinsky. Adnovsky. I can't read, I've not got my glasses on. Who left the role as the United States national team's boss at the aftermath of a poor 2023 Women's World Cup. Hayes has been in charge of Chelsea since 2012 and has enjoyed a lot of success. They've won 6 WSL titles under her management, including the last 4 in a row. They've won the FA Cup 5 times. She's the best women's coach in the FIFA Awards in 2021. She's in the WSL Hall of Fame. She's an unbelievable pundit. She's an OBE. I thought, honestly, of every, you always hear when a certain job's come up, women are sort of touted around, should they do this and should they be progressive and all that sort of stuff. I always thought she would be the one to make the jump first and foremost, because merely off what she's done in the game, in the women's game, off the back of punditry as well, she knows what she's doing. She's a fantastic woman. I wish Emma Hayes would manage Newcastle one day.
But is it a question of a slightly sexist question of Kavorka? Is that what you think stopping people going in for teams going in for like an Emma Hayes or something like that?
Of course it is, isn't it? We all know what's stopping them. We all know what's stopping them. But I think she'd be the one eventually. Well, I thought she was either destined for the men's game or destined to be the next England manager. But no, she's got what I think it probably is the biggest job in women's football, the United States national team. I saw her wage banded about as well, which seems like she's on the big bucks there, so congratulations for that as well. It's fully deserved. I hope she can do a bit of punditry. Really enjoy listening to her talk.
Yeah, well, it depends what the schedule's like for was it USWNT?
Yes.
Yeah, because I've been in America for a Women's World Cup before, and they do take it very seriously. To our American friends out there, I want to hope that it is for a progressive love of the women's game and not just because you can win, because that's what it seemed to be at the time. It's like, oh, we can win this. We can't win the men's one. They're crap, so we don't like them, but we can win the women's one. But I agree with you. It's the biggest job in the women's game. Like you're saying, the turnaround of Chelsea, because for years it seemed it was the women's league would be between Arsenal and maybe Everton, and then obviously when City got money, City started coming up for it. But like you said, was it the 4 on the spin for Chelsea?
Something like that, yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah. What a woman. But anyway, she's going to see United States dominate the world of football now.
Yeah.
Without Megan Rapinoe, though, that was quite funny, wasn't it?
Yeah. But when I remember Rapinoe getting the Ballon d'Or the other year, and I was like, really? And that's another reason why I don't put any stock in the Ballon d'Or, because it should go to the best player and not the most famous player.
But also at the award ceremony as well, when she signed that little lad's ball, And she didn't once look at him in the eye, even acknowledge him. She's an arsehole.
I'm not a fan.
There's certain people like, Zlatan, I think, would be the male equivalent. Would it be in terms of sheer Kavorka? But I'm sure he would still look at the lad in the eye and go, how are you doing, pal?
Yeah, I again, talking about us being big softies, I love watching like compilations of stuff like that, where you just see like a mascot look at it like, I don't know, Roberto Carlos or Zidane or something, and Zidane just gives them a little rub on the head, and they're just like, oh, thank you. Or like Usain Bolt used to do it at the Olympics, didn't he? Whoever was just kind of there looking after him, he'd give him a little fist bump and they'd just have a big grin on their face. It doesn't take anything.
Yeah, just couple that though from her, and then her work. It was one of her last games. I don't know if it was her last international appearance where she walked in with the beatbox, the boombox blaring of her own theme song or something like that, and they're walking through. It was just like, come on now, pal, give your head a wobble. You're not all that.
A very good player, but even the best player in that team.
Give me Beth Mead over her every single day of the week. Anyway, Chelsea, the men's team now, face fresh questions over how its former owner, Roman Abramovich, funded the club's success after leaked files revealed a string of secret payments that may have breached strict football rules, including those on, of course, financial fair play. Experts say the transactions, uncovered through a joint investigation by The Guardian and international partners, could lead to the Premier League imposing a punishment on Chelsea, such as a deduction of points. The file reveals a series of payments worth tens of millions of pounds over a decade, routed through offshore vehicles belonging to Abramovich. The transactions in question appear to have been for Chelsea's benefit, raising questions about whether they were declared in accounts submitted to the football's governing bodies. Beneficiaries appear to include the agent of former star player Eden Hazard, an associate of the title-winning manager Antonio Conte, and Chelsea FC officials. Other payments it's never ending this. Other payments appear to have been connected to the purchase of players like Willian and Samuel Eto'o. The payments have come to light thanks to an international investigation known as Cyprus Confidential, which needs to be a TV show now. Welcome to Cyprus Confidential. A cachet of 3.6 million offshore records leaked to the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, the ICIJ, and Germany's paper Trial Media, which shared access with The Guardian, the Bureau of Investigating Journalism, and other media. So the question needs to be asked, Jack Atkins, what is the suitable penalty for a club that may have just cheated its way to all of its success over the past 20 years?
This is the I'm going to feel a bit sorry for Todd Bowley, because he's going to be the one who has to deal with all the fallout from it and not Abramovich. But are you surprised at these findings?
Yes, I am. How could you get away with this for 20 years?
Because unfortunately, as kind of Everton might find out, because currently Chelsea are a bigger team, which holds too much sway, which is unfortunate. I mean, I know the Italian league is still corrupt as bollocks, but they had no qualms sending Juventus all the way down and stripping them of titles and stuff like that. That has to be the root and the cause, but there'll be too many purists in this country who are just like, oh, if you do that, the game's gone. It's like the game's been gone for years anyway, especially if you can spend tens of millions of pounds allegedly on a far past his prime Samuel Eto'o. That's the one. That's the one that really surprised me reading all the charges. Like, hang on, they were trying to hide money to get Eto'o.
But I want to see it broken down into numbers. Like, we know Everton have breached the rules once, I think. We know that Manchester City have allegedly, apparently, maybe breached the rules 115 times. How many times have Chelsea breached these rules? That's what we need to know next.
It's like what they've done with players caught with betting offences, etc. Where you see, bans for X amount of months for so many offences, and then someone else. Who was it earlier this season? Was Ivan Toney? How many did he have?
Oh, it was like 230 something, I think, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, so like I said, it's like an economy of scale. You've got someone with like 5 charges and someone with 230. You've got Everton with 1 and 115 for City. It's because this is new and there's no framework for it. It seems like they're just kind of going, we'll make it up as we go along.
But it's certainly going to be interesting to see what happens first. Will it be Manchester City? Will it be Everton? Or will it be Chelsea who get points deducted? Because again, the first one who does have the decision put on them, then everything after that's going to be based on that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens first and foremost.
Unfortunately, my head says it's going to be Everton.
It probably
Just-
will be.
Just because they are currently the easier target, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, it will be interesting because it's one of those that if Chelsea do get, say, titles or the first Champions League taken away from them, etc., how do you feel about them being retroactively rewarded to whoever came second, or do you think they are declared null and void if it were to happen?
What a question. I think they should be null and void because you never know how a singular game of football is going to go, do you? Is that the right way to think about it? I don't know.
I want to say so because with the case of City, obviously Liverpool, as a Liverpool fan as well, if they say get convicted of their charges and if they do get titles taken away from them, there have been times when we've come second, but
I think maybe a Premier League's different though because that's a season's worth of football played there. So if you take out the games against Manchester City, then have a new points total.
Yeah.
But if it's like a cup final, for example, I think it's a bit different there. In my head, at least. I don't know.
Yeah. But, well, again, a very non-committal answer from me, but we'll have to wait and see, Ross.
Yes, we will. Right. Pugmold chief Howard Webb has had the final say on Anthony Gordon's controversial winner for Newcastle United against Arsenal and Scott McTominay's disallowed goal for Manchester United against Fulham in the latest edition of everyone's favourite show, Matt's Officials, Mic'd Up, featuring Michael Owen, the little prick. As we all know, we've already known this for a couple of weeks now, the Premier League's independent key match incidents panel has already ruled that the on-field referee and VAR reached the correct decision. So this discussion for the Anthony Gordon goal against Arsenal was null and void, but I guess it was nice to hear the audio all the same. A couple of things I picked up on. The first thing, in a positive sense, it was good to hear that they're being really clear in the language that they're using for the decisions. Like they were being very, am I okay to allow this goal, this, that and the other. They seemed to eradicate the issues that were apparently the reason behind that bollocks we saw between Spurs and Liverpool. The negative side, I thought it was astonishing to know they didn't know what camera angles were available because they were calling for goal line technology to see if when Joe Willock hooked the ball, well, he kept the ball in play because, as we all know, balls are spherical and a little bit of the ball doesn't touch the grass, therefore overhangs the line because they're three-dimensional and not two-dimensional. We went through this at the World Cup, everybody. Why we're doing this again. They didn't know what camera angle was available to see that incident there, which I thought was a little bit weird. And I know it's a high-pressure situation, but the way at times they were rambling over the top of each other with no clear structure of like, I'm the lead VAR, you're the assistant VAR, you talk when I don't talk. It all seemed very panicked. Again, I do concede it is a very high-pressure situation, but I expect a lot better chain of command at this point in the game. Like, how long's VAR been around now? A couple of years?
Yeah, a couple of years, and especially now that they definitely know they're being watched and scrutinised. Like you said, the language was a little bit clearer at times, but just a mess.
Yeah.
It needs stripping down completely to its core and rebuilding, not quick fixes.
More on that later in the mailbag, Jack. I can save all that big picture stuff for then. But yeah, I thought it was clear to see because again, I didn't think the ball was out for Joe Willock's part of the goal because again, the World Cup we had the same situation where I remember at the time everyone was like, "That's out." Then we had it proven that balls are spherical. A little bit the ball overhangs the line. I thought I was fine there. The one bit I thought was a foul, but I can see why it wasn't given retrospectively, was Joe Linton's push on Gabriel. But then again, I think it was all right on VAR's part not to overturn the decision because you do see Gabriel stoop, which sees his weight go forward anyway, and then Joe Linton's hands are there anyway. So you can't clearly see Joe Linton push because Gabriel goes down. It's a 2 + 2 = 4 situation. It's not a 4 + 0, if you know what I'm trying to say.
I do, but I'm just marveling at. I've now realised that my favourite word to hear in a northeastern / slightly Geordie accent is stoop. That's lovely.
It's like Kale always takes the piss out the way I say cook and book.
My nan used to do that as well. So it's some areas of Liverpool and Merseyside you'll get cook, book, Luke. I nearly swore again then.
What did you think, though? What did you think Willock's bit was fine? Did you think the offside, which you were also checking for, was fine? But I mean, there was no way to see the offside call because the ball, you couldn't physically see it with the camera angles available because of human men. But what do you think about the Joe Linton bit as well?
But it's the whole thing. Like we said, it's bringing it back to you say before, basic physics, the old passages of play argument, and going back from the Joe Linton bit more, the camera angles as well, and just kind of just not knowing what's going on at all times, if you know what I mean. Obviously, the beauty of the game, of the beautiful game, is that you can't predict what's going to happen on the pitch, but there are certain things that you should know. Should know where your cameras are, should know that, I don't know, the circumference of the ball and all that kind of stuff. For the Joe Linton one, I would have to see the challenge again, because it's been a couple of weeks, and as we all know, my mind is made of crisps.
He's on the fence again.
Only because I can't remember it fully in my head.
But again, I was going to say, if that was given as a foul by the referee and the VAR didn't overturn it, I'd be fine with it, because it's not conclusive. But the fact it wasn't given by the referee and it wasn't overturned by VAR, yes, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be pissed off. But I'm trying to look at it, objectively. I'd be fine with it, because there's no... Again, I go back to it. Gabriel stooped. Joe Linton's hands were there. You don't know how much pressure was on the hands and how much stoopage there was.
I'm trying to get it up on Twitter now, see if I can find it again.
I bet you are, you dirty bugger. But the other big interesting thing while you're looking at that is the fact that they also admitted that there should have been 2 red cards in the game for Havertz's loan, John Longstaff, and Bruno, who I'm fine to admit he should have been given 2 red cards. One for the forearm smash on the back of Jorginho, which apparently was not given as a red card because it wasn't the elbow. That was apparently the reason given. And also, he should have had 2 yellow cards on top of that as well for the fouls in the game. So at least they're admitting when they get it wrong, eh? That's the consistent thing here.
I was just rewatching the Joe Linton one. It's, like you said, the stoop is in play. He is leading with his arms, but it's the old... If you're jumping for a ball, what are you meant to do with your arms? Keep them pinned to your side. You could see why you'd be aggrieved if it went against you, but
yeah.
It's not too much to make out of it. But again, it's refereeing consistency. We saw it this week with Liverpool with our game against Bournemouth with the Endo challenge. Thomas Frank came out afterwards and said, for me, that is not a red card. He should have stayed on the pitch. But he said, but in the context of the season, it is. And we just need it. Obviously, armchair pundits. I wouldn't even call myself a pundit. Armchair fans. It's easy for us to say, well, that was a red card last week. That's a yellow card this week. That's not going to be a challenge next week. But for the referees, they should know this in and out.
Yeah. I'm ready for VAR to go, but more on that a little bit later on in the podcast. Excuse me, I burped as I spoke there. How unprofessional. How unprofessional indeed. Shall we go to our highlight of the week, because it sort of coincides with the last bit of news I've got listed here today. Do you want to go first, Jack Atkins?
I will go first. And my highlight of the week is just seeing the safe return of Luis Diaz's dad. Lovely stuff. The fact that he managed... It's something that... 99.9% of us will never have to experience. We can't imagine what it's like. But the fact that Luis Diaz, a continent away from home, his dad was kidnapped and held 12 days. Said he was treated all right, but obviously you've still been kidnapped, haven't you? But just glad that it's all sorted itself out. The fact that Diaz has kept his head, even came on and scored for Liverpool. We're softies, aren't we, Ross? We like seeing things like this.
Yeah, I've got quotes from his dad, because his dad did like a little sort of mock press conference sort of thing after is returned the right word?
Yeah, I'd say returned.
Yeah, returned. Yeah. He said the walking was hard. I didn't know where I was. I walked a lot. I rested little. He said he was awake for 12 days without sleep during this ordeal. But he says, though, I saw a mountain that I'd never seen before. Now, I don't want anyone to go through those mountains in the situation I was in. So if one day they can go through there again, they'll be holding hands with a sign that peace says peace and freedom.
That's lovely, though.
Yeah, imagine having that outlook after going through that.
Yeah, if again... I can't speak on this because it's never happened to me, and it likely and hopefully never will. But if I'd just been kidnapped, I wouldn't be... my first quote wouldn't be, I saw a mountain I'd never seen before. I wouldn't be able to see the beauty in it. I'd just be like, I was knackered and I wanted to slap someone.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to the guy for having that outlook on life after that, because, yeah, as you say, ours would be quite different. But yeah, it is nice to see that he is safe and sound.
Yeah, and that was my highlight of the week. Ross, what about yourself?
Mine's not as serious. It's a goal that was scored in the football at the weekend there. It was Federico Di Marco for Inter Milan. And it's not because it was a worldie like many are saying it is. It's because clearly he shanked it, and it's going to get a Puskás Award nominee for goal of the season, whatever that goal of the year, whatever it is for the Puskás Award. You can clearly see before he strikes the ball. I've never heard of this team before for some reason. I was saying this to you early, Jack Atkins. Frosinone?
Yeah, it was new to me, and I had a look, and I think this is the first time in their history they've been in Serie A. So up the Frosinone.
Up the Frosinone, we'll go with.
Frosinone.
Anyway, Inter Milan were playing this team at the weekend there in Serie A, and Di Marco picks up the ball on the left. He is the left back, of course. He goes about 10 yards on the byline into Frosinone's half, and he sort of looks up for a ball across the pitch. You can see his neck do as I'm doing on YouTube. If you're on audio, I'm just sort of looking to my far right over there to play a ball across the pitch. And then all of a sudden, he tries to play said ball, but he shanks it. And he shanks it so wonderfully well, it flights perfectly over the goalkeeper's head, doesn't bounce before hitting the back of the net. It's a beautiful, beautiful goal. Unless you can clearly see that he's trying to play a crossfield ball. And just the fact that this is going to get a nominee for goal of the year, and there'll be a lot of people who think it is a legitimate goal, like the idiots who said Mudryk against Arsenal a few weeks ago, that was a legitimate attempt at a goal. Those idiots are including this as well. The fact he's going to get a nomination and lots of plaudits for a complete shank, that's my highlight of the week.
It was similar but nicer than Paul Konchesky in the Gerrard final. Over from the left as well. Just kind of Paul Konchesky never in his life has attempted anything like that, but somehow find the back of the net. If he meant it, I think it would have been a bit more like Van Bronckhorst in the World Cup, cutting in from the left and absolutely smacking it.
But it is the fact it goes like that, isn't it? You don't mean to hit.
It's like you said, the flight on it. It's a wonderful goal, but definitely not meant in the slightest.
No, not at all. But the fact I tried to have a quick search there on Google. I don't think he's come out and said, "Oh, it was a fluke." So he's having everyone believe it was real, a legitimate attempt. So I applaud that kind of poo-housery as well. I love that kind of stuff.
The Harry Kane defence, we call
that. Hey, his goal from the halfway line wasn't too bad, was it? Oh.
He's like yourself, Ross. He's enjoying life in Germany, isn't he?
A little bit, yeah. Right, we go from Harry Kane to the next segment, which is always called the Darren England and Daniel Cook Memorial Twat of the Week. You went first for the highlight. I'll go first for the twat. And by the way, later in the podcast, I've got a bit of a Twat FA Cup knockout bracket coming, which is exciting for all parties concerned, unless you're the twats involved in it, I guess, because no one likes being called a twat, do they? Unless you're Joey Barton, I assume.
He's a bit of a twat.
He's a bit of a twat. But yeah, my twat of the week has to go to Aaron Ramsdale. I'm asking the question, everybody, why the bollocks would you say this in public?
To concentrate on a game of football for 90 minutes, I'm finished, I can't do it. So that's why I get involved with the fans, and I'll sing along with the songs, and someone's giving me abuse, I'll turn around and I'll give them a bit back. Yeah. I've had me 2-3 minutes of sort of madness in my head, straight back to the football. Yeah, okay. And I've got 10-15 minutes of pure concentration again. Next thing you know, half time's around.
Now, this is a podcast. I'm not sure what the podcast is. I don't know when the podcast was published. But if this was published around the start of the season, we've just had the signing of David Raya and how Aaron Ramsdale was treated explained in full. Because he's admitted that he's not concentrating on the game for all 90 minutes. He can do it in 10 to 15 minute bursts, but at the top of the Premier League, your number one goalkeeper physically can't concentrate on the game for all 90 minutes. So if this podcast with Ian Wright, an unnamed man who sat next to Ian Wright, came out in August or July, maybe even June at a push, we know why Aaron Ramsdale was treated like he was at the start of the season. Said it a few times on the podcast. On the pitch, he did nothing wrong, but he was dropped. But that would explain it. If Mikel Arteta saw that, that's why he's made the change.
Yeah, Ian Wright looked horrified. He's like, what are you doing? It's the equivalent of having a job interview when asked, what are your weaknesses? Not saying, stuff that you can work on, but just being like, kind of like clocking off half an hour early. And as soon as I come to work, I go for a great big poo for 15 minutes. You're not going to say, it's astonishing. Absolutely astonishing. It's, like you say, we don't know when this is from, but it's been doing the rounds recently, and everyone just going, okay, it all makes sense now.
It does. Imagine being Mikel Arteta, seeing that and thinking, oh my God, he's not even asked about the game for, I don't know how long, 20 minutes of the game in total? If he's taking 2 or 3 minutes off every 10 to 15 minutes.
Now, in the past, you said that you'd take a punt on Ramsdale Newcastle. Are you still feeling that, or are you feeling kind of like, ooh, about him?
I think I still would.
Yeah.
You go back to last season, I know he was... I don't know why did he have to frame it like that? Why don't you just have to frame it like, James Maddison does? I doubt James Maddison would come out and go, I can't concentrate on the game. I think about darts too much, so I have to interact with the crowd. I doubt he would come out and say, why did he have to word it like that? I don't understand what he was thinking. Why did you just say, I love getting involved with the crowd. I love taking the piss out of them. It's all just fun and games. Just end it there.
Yeah. It's especially considering this generation of footballers, one of the things they're taught when they're coming through academies is media training as well. And they're always taught, keep your cards close to your chest until your playing days are done. Apparently not.
But yeah, if you can seek out that little clip there on social media, it's worth watching, just as Atkins said there, for Ian Wright's face, because it's clearly like, I can't believe he's saying this. I don't want him to stop out with just, respect for the guest and whatnot, and just being nice to a fellow human being, I guess. But you can tell that he's astonished at what he's hearing. It's a fantastic, memeable face. What's yours?
Do you think it's going to become a reaction, the Ian Wright?
Yeah, because I think it just says, I think the little caption down below just goes like, yeah. So his face is like, yeah? Are you sure? We go from that twat who maybe just cost himself a place in the Arsenal team through a podcast rather than his on-field performances to Joe Atkins's Darren England and Daniel Cook Memorial Twat of the Week.
It's Bernardo Silva. It's not. It's Michael Owen. Of course, it's Michael Owen. We all love Michael Owen here. He was whining on Twitter this week. Did you see this?
I did see a little bit of it, but I want you to explain it in full.
So he tweeted, "You're just scumbags. Always have been. Troll through a lot of messages until you find a couple of negative ones, and then thought the show was insightful and educational, which is our aim." And then he links to a screenshot from the Daily Mail's website saying Premier League fans slam PGMOL's match officials mic'd up show as utterly useless and a massive cop-out for Howard Webb, with Michael Owen panned for not challenging the former ref. Now, he's having a go at the Daily Mail. I can commend that. But the fact that he's posted that and then all the responses are saying, yeah, but it is crap, Michael, and you do give him an easy time, and you should press him on these things, and it's just fluff for the PGMOL. Accept your criticism, do better. We talked about it before. At least this time, they were kind of bringing focus on disputable decisions which, got the backs up of supporters, rather than someone slapping the ball and then being like, as you can see there, that's a handball. It's just, Owen does nothing. I mean, obviously they've picked Michael Owen because he's an idiot anyway.
Yeah.
But just the fact he's like, you're trolling for a couple of tweets, everyone else likes it, which is not the case because everyone just sees it as a farce. And it's Michael Owen. He's just a horrible little man, isn't he?
I'm not being funny, but asking Michael Owen to be a sort of investigative, pressy sort of journalist asking the hard-hitting questions is like asking a dog to drive an aeroplane. With no training, by the way. This dog's had no training. Go and fly that aeroplane, little dog. They're not gonna have a chance, are they?
I had the image then. Remember Come Outside of is it Anthony Mabel? No.
Put Pippin in the front seat of that plane. See what happens. That's like Michael Owen hosting the show when we want the big questions asked, the hard-hitting truth.
So Michael Owen and Pippin in a biplane, just waving.
As they go down and crash into a ball of flame. That's a bit harsh on Michael Owen. I do not like him, but that's a bit harsh. Anyway, what are you going to say about him?
Well, we all know he's excellent at flying a helicopter, isn't he?
Yes, I am. Oh, look down there. Is it Pete Sampras on the top of the bill? It's Pete Sampras having a little game of tennis.
And then he goes on the call and goes, look, there's former Ryder Cup captain Sam Torrance. Hello, Sam Torrance.
Hello.
But yeah, he's just a tit. I think twat is too harsh for Michael Owen. He's a tit, which is almost more damning. He's just a tit.
Let us know in the comments what's more severe, a tit or a twat.
But that's all I've got to say on Michael Owen this week.
Yeah, what a tosser. We move on now to not Well, no, it's the other segment, isn't it? It's welcome to Brighton Hove Albion fullback Purvis Estepinian. What are you talking about? This is, of course, the segment where we ask you for your hot takes on the grand sport that is professional association football, and we either agree with it or pull it apart. It's always interesting to hear what wacky opinions the listeners have. This one comes to us from System of a Dan 30. I like the pun from Dan. He says, when people talk about how good Roberto Carlos was, they only talk about that free kick as proof. He was a great athlete and that bailed him out as a defender. Cafu was always the superior fullback who never gets the respect Carlos gets. Ooh. All because of that effing free kick. Now, I would argue Cafu gets just as much as, if not more respect than Roberto Carlos inside football circles. However, outside sponsorships and whatnot, obviously the more flamboyant, fanciful name is the Galactico banana free kick producing Roberto Carlos.
With his 2 mile run up. Yeah, I will admit that if I'm, got a spare 10 minutes on YouTube, I am looking up Roberto Carlos free kicks and not, the beautiful plays of Cafu. But Cafu was definitely a better player. But I do think that kind of assessment of Carlos is a bit unfair because at the end of the day, he, how many Champions Leagues did he win with Real Madrid? He won a couple of La Ligas. He won the World Cup. You could say
he's best friends with David Beckham.
Exactly. You could argue he's more of the archetype of the modern fullback than Cafu is. But I think it is part A and part B. I think those two really changed the game. But Cafu, he was brilliant, wasn't he? And he captained that 2002 Brazil side to the World Cup. He was just a leader on the pitch. His defensive work was better. He did love getting up and he did love attacking. But yeah, it's one of those. Carlos is the highlight reel player, but Cafu was he's mustard, wasn't he?
He's more marketable, isn't he, Roberto Carlos, than Cafu? Just with the Galactico tag, the free kick, the big shiny head. I don't know. Cafu is a lot more reserved than Roberto Carlos, I'd say. Which I think is what maybe sets him apart in the mainstream. Not us real football men. We're real football men here. I hate it when people say that. Oh, he's a real football man. He's going to save him from relegation. He knows the game. He played it. He does all of it. Ooh.
Exactly, just like that. That's how we talk when we meet up for a lovely plate of pork, sumptuous, succulent pork chops.
I wish it was pork chops. It's just the scratches, isn't it, for us two?
See you in a couple of weeks on that, actually, Ross. We'll have some scratches together. Yeah, well, I think the assessment of Roberto Carlos is a little harsh. Cafu was the better player for me.
Yeah, I think everyone agree with that. But, Roberto Carlos could kick a ball like nobody else could. Maybe Lauren Robert was the closest we could get to Roberto Carlos. I don't know. We move on to the Roberto Mail Baggio, which is ross@holdandgive.com. That's ross@holdandgive.com. We kick things off. Guten Abend, Horse und Clive. That's our new names, Horse and Clive. Because I'm such a big fan of your Twat of the Week segment, I've done extensive market research, in brackets mostly Reddit, to compile a list of the 16 biggest twats in football to create the biggest twat FA Cup bracket, in brackets, see attached, to fill in at your leisure. I've tried to keep it light, so no murderers or diddlers. Thanks, as always. Keep up the good work. Yours sincerely, the bisexual Bovril Botherer. As always, it's such a pleasure to hear from the bisexual Bovril Botherer. What do you do with the Bovril? Let us know. But we do have the bracket on screen now. Clive, do you have it loaded up in front of you? You can see it, or you just want to go off my words?
No, I have it loaded up.
Right then. It's all on you, pal. Round 1, game 1. Ben Thatcher, Joey Barton. Who's the biggest twat?
Oh, a pair of violent scumbags. Thatcher, how many people did he knock out on the pitch?
Pedro Mendes, yeah.
Pedro Mendes and Summerby, wasn't it, before that? Years ago when he was at Wimbledon.
Oh, I can't remember that one.
But at least 2. But with Barton, it's all the off-the-pitch stuff as well. He's not a nice fella, is he? Stubbing out cigars on little kids and having fights in Liverpool City Centre and stuff. I'm going to say Joey Barton.
John Terry or Ryan Giggs?
See, this for me could be a final.
It should be a final.
But it's John Terry. Ryan Giggs, horrible man in private for many years. But just John Terry, he's just not a nice fella, is he? I've never met the man, but what I get from him is he just seems rotten to the core.
A big racist adulterer. Allegedly. Jordan Henderson or Ashley Cole is a bit of a weird pairing.
Yeah, this one seems... Because some of the names that I would have put in here that aren't on here are like... Well, actually, I'll go at that after we've gone through this first round.
I was going to say, can we move it on? It's going to be a 7-hour podcast, this.
Sorry, I'm going to go Ashley Cole. Jordan Henderson, he's abandoned his morals and everything, but Ashley Cole... Oh, actually, I don't know. Ashley
Cole cheated on Cheryl.
War Cheryl. And he's Judas. I'm going to go Ashley Cole.
He's gone Cole. Andy Robertson or Lee Bowyer?
Lee Bowyer.
Yeah.
Come on.
Not even a contest, is it? What's that? Has Andy Robertson ever done anything off the pitch?
No, I think he's just a bit of an ass-house on the pitch, which I think's, all part and parcel of the game.
This would be an interesting answer. Luis Suarez or Carlos Tevez?
Luis Suarez.
Oh, thank God for that.
One of the biggest baddies we've ever seen in football.
Robbie Savage or Sol Campbell?
Well, I have a deep dislike for Sol Campbell because of the ego of the man. But Robbie Savage is a prick, isn't he? So
what's up? That's a fantastic story, that. You seen that with Roy Keane when he's trying to sign Robbie Savage? Just to fill the viewers in, if you haven't heard, apparently he tried to sign Robbie Savage, did Roy Keane when he was Sunderland manager, I think, and Robbie Savage didn't pick up the phone when he called him and was greeted by an answering machine message of "What's up?" And Roy Keane decided off the back of that wasn't the player for him who was doing that sort of thing as a grown man.
Was it Derby County that Robbie Savage signed for, and he wound them all up because he was coming in on mega bucks and turned up, and I think it was his McLaren F1 car or something like that, and he had it, wrapped in the Derby colours, and there's lads there on like $2,000 a week just going, yeah, nice to meet you, Robbie.
Give your head a wobble, Robbie. Anyway, yeah, gave your head a wobble, Robbie. What a tongue twister that is. Anyway, Duncan Ferguson or Jody Morris?
I'm going to see Jody Morris because obviously Duncan Ferguson, Duncan disorderly, violent on the pitch, but off the pitch, I like Duncan Ferguson. He's an old hard man, but he seems quite nice. Whereas Jody Morris, he was part of that Chelsea wide boy lot, wasn't he? And mocking 9/11 and getting into a fray, and I think drunk driving offences. So I'm going to go Jody Morris on this.
And finally, in the first round, Kurt Zouma or Mario Balotelli?
It's Kurt Zouma again. Mario Balotelli just seems like a bit of a goof, whereas Kurt Zouma hoofed a cat, and I love cats, Ross.
Animal abuser over fireworks any day.
Yeah. In terms of names that I would have thought would have been in here, obviously Bernardo Silva. Craig Bellamy would have been in here for me. Cristiano Ronaldo, just because he's just, apart from the off the pitch allegations, he's just a knobhead, isn't he?
Yeah.
Any others top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. I think we've had all bases covered there. I'm trying to think of off the pitch stuff, especially. I don't know. If you're putting Bowyer in, maybe Woodgate, because he was involved in that. I don't know. Next round, Joey Barton versus John Terry.
John Terry.
Ashley Cole versus Lee Bowyer.
Lee Bowyer.
Luis Suarez versus Robbie Savage.
Luis Suarez.
And finally, Jody Morris versus Kurt Zouma.
Zouma.
Semi-final time. John Terry versus Lee Bowyer.
Ooh, it's John Terry.
Semi-final 2. Luis Suarez versus Kurt Zouma.
It's Luis Suarez.
In your final, John Terry or Luis Suarez, who is the biggest twat?
I'll let you take this one because my heart and my head are having a big fight right now.
You probably... It's a very hard one to call, isn't it? I can see what you've done here. You're a horrible bastard. But I would say John Terry's discrepancies rank slightly more severe than Luis Suarez's do. They're quite similar in some areas. Then you've got adultery or biting a man, biting two men. He bit two men, didn't he?
Yeah. Chiellini and someone when he was in Ajax.
What's he called? Chelsea fullback. Ivanovic.
Yes.
I'm going to go Terry. John Terry has won the biggest twat FA Cup. Thank you to the bisexual Bovril Botherer for that wonderful bracket. That was actually quite good, that. Hey, Ross and Clive, whom on this day pees freely? Yes, he does do that every single Wednesday. I've been listening to the podcast from the beginning. I've noticed, Ross, you especially have called for VAR to be scrapped altogether, and it got me wondering why. Now, let me explain. I'm an NHL fan, and they, along with the NBA, MLB, NFL, and MLS, use VAR, good God, review close and questionable calls if the referee isn't sure. Yes, fans still get pissy regarding certain calls, myself including, watching the Vegas Golden Knights. With that being said, does it not show that it's not the technology at fault, but the training of the officials on the use of the technology rather than the tech itself? If it was the technology that was the problem, World Snooker wouldn't use Hawkeye, and neither would Wimbledon Tennis Championships. All of this to say is I believe it's insufficient training on the officials' part to blame, and not the tech system at fault. Love the podcast and keep up the awesome work, both of you, as a non-football fan. But oh my God, I'm having a stroke here. I need my glasses. Love the podcast and keep up the awesome work, both of you, as a non-football fan, but fans of you are both learn new things every week. My God. Sincerely, Thomas F. Shelvin. Thank you very much, Mr. Shelvin. And you've just explained there what my main issue is with VAR. What I've realised this season, when we've had stuff shown to us like the Anthony Gordon situation, is that VAR isn't actually using technology to its fullest extent. It's actually just opening up decisions to several more potential layers of human error, as we saw at Spurs versus Liverpool. I guess we didn't see that at Newcastle versus Arsenal, but that's my main issue with it. Using the World Cup and other competitions, when offsides especially, we have that sort of 3D model of a player built up where they make like a likeness of the player, and it's a line's like put through them digitally, and you can see conclusively technology tells you it's onside or it's offside. It's not a human being drawing lines and a human being zooming in and going, oh, that looks offside to me, but I'm 57 years old and I've not had varifocals for 20 years. I don't know, but it's the fact it's opening it up to several more layers of human error rather than just using technology to go like Hawkeye in cricket. That uses technology. Snicko's there. The track of the ball's there. You're using technology. It's not up to a man to decide. You either hear the snick or see the snick on the little snickometer. You see the flight of the ball. It's all technology. It's not someone making their mind up off the back of technology.
Yes. I've said, you've heard me say this till blue in the face. I've said since day one, the English refs are either too incompetent or too arrogant to fully work VAR. I will give some benefit of the doubt. When it was first brought in, to fully implement a whole new system, we're not talking gradual, we're talking a whole new system. When you've been officiating for so long, it must be an uphill challenge. But it's been how many seasons now? Is this the third season?
It's either the second or the third, I don't know.
I can't remember.
I think it's the second. Is it? I don't know.
I don't know, but...
Time's a mystery to me these days.
But like you say, with some of the things where it is a binary and you can just use the technology, we need to go down that route. But like the PG, I hate to talk about them again. The Pokemon, they've got their own interest at heart, for better and for worse. And it needs stripping. As I was saying before, it needs stripping right back to its core and built up again, rather than just kind of like papering over the cracks.
Yeah, because I think the way it's currently implemented, I just think get rid, because I'm a lot more at peace with one man getting it wrong than if I was a Liverpool fan seeing, three men get it wrong and then just one man going, oh, lads, you got it wrong here. Then the three of the men going, oh, there's nothing we can do, even though they could do, but they've written stupid rules into the game, which means they can't do anything. But less about that thing, Jack Atkins? I guess you're just about over it now, are you?
We're 1 point off the top now, Ross. And 1 point could have made all the difference.
Final question. Hey there, you magnificent bastards. Do you think the Premier League could do with a 50+1 rule like the Bundesliga? I feel like even fans of clubs with better owners complain a lot about how external businessmen from American or Asian countries operate. Here in Germany, an investor can acquire a maximum of 49% of a club, with 51% staying with the club and allowing fans to keep a voice. The most important slogan in German football is Fußball muss... Oh, God, here we go. Fußball muss bezahlbar sein. Football needs to be affordable. I could have just said that. Which I think, by the way, Newcastle fans had little banners, didn't they, saying thank you very much for the ticket prices. My ticket in the home end, I think, was RRP €50, whereas in the away end, I think it was something like €16.
Yeah.
I think I read that right somewhere.
And you hear loads of stories. I mean, you went through like a full ticket to service and didn't pay half as much as I thought you were going to. But you often hear that, you know, you get your ticket on a match day and public transport's free as long as you show your ticket and stuff like that.
That was true. It was from midnight the day of the game. So the game was on Tuesday night, midnight Tuesday, all the way through until 3 a.m. Wednesday morning. If you flash your ticket, you got on the train for free.
Fantastic.
Wonderbar. 50+1 ensures the ticket prices, food and drinks in and around the stadiums are way more reasonable than in other leagues. And I agree with that as well, having now sampled a Dortmund sausage, a bratwurst. Well, I got some currywurst, a pot of currywurst. It was delightful. A bratwurst in a big bun, big sausage, and wasn't a whole six. I had to pay a little bit of money with but I got basically inside €30 for 6 pints plus those 2 bits of food as well. So it's... You think about what you're going to pay for 6 pints in England. That's 30 quid. That's 30 quid by itself, I think. Where are we up to there? The Bundesliga may be seen as cheap compared to the Prem, but I'd rather keep the atmosphere and passion at my beloved Borussia Dortmund, you bastard, than have millions be pumped into by someone who is not affiliated with the club. Do you think this could still apply to the Prem, or is it too late to change the culture? I've seen fan groups happily wait for a takeover. Here in Germany, the fans actively protest whenever someone tries to buy into a club. Sorry for the long one, chaps. It's a topic that I know the German fans are very passionate about, and I'd like to hear your perspectives as you support clubs with very different relationships with your owners. Thanks again for my last mailbag being turned into a full video. All the best from Josh. Josh, thank you very much. I think that was one me and Owen did a little while ago on the channel. Go and watch that one. Why don't you? Keep the retention up. Go and click on a different video on the Hold and Give Football YouTube channel. That's the most important thing today. Keep clicking, everybody. Keep clicking. But just to go back to his little point there of, do you think this could still apply to Premier League clubs, or is it too late to change the culture? I think it's way gone. Way gone.
It's we waxed lyrically at the beginning of this podcast about how we look at the Bundesliga with heart eyes from across the pond. Fans still try and have a voice over here. Obviously, there's 20 Years Plenty campaign. There's, with every supporter group will have, hopefully, if not a seat at the table, maybe a word in the ear of the board if they can. I know like Spirit of Shankly in the past Liverpool have had communication about how things should be done. We protested ticket price raises and stuff like that. And it's what I always say, if anyone's ever coming to Anfield, don't get a hot dog inside the stadium. Go to the community pie shop across the road, because that gets pumped back into the community. And obviously everyone likes to look at Forest Green Rovers, in lower leagues, but they're the exception rather than the rule. And I think you're right. It's far too late in the day. And even the culture of Britain, like you're saying, you don't get anything for free here. I couldn't imagine a world where it's just like, oh, I've bought me ticket to the match. Can I get on the train for free? And no, you can pay double. That's how it is in England. But I'd like it to be that way, but I don't think it is.
No, you've hit the nail on the head there. The thing that always surprised me was when the Super League was getting mooted about during lockdown and fans took action there, and it felt like that made a difference. I didn't expect it to make a difference, but I think that's the limit of how fans can really make a difference. We saw when Mike Ashley was in charge of Newcastle, we had certain sections of the fan base boycott a game at home to Spurs, where the stadium was, I think it was around about half to 3/4 full at the start of kickoff, but by the end it was barren, and it just doesn't make a difference. It's all in all, it's too far gone, and fans don't have a say in how their club is run at the top level, like Liverpool and Newcastle are. I'm sure any Newcastle fan would rather have the takeover that we had a couple of years ago, have money brought into the club anywhere else in the world apart from Saudi Arabia, but it's that far gone, you don't get a choice. And there was always a say when Mike Ashley was there, I'll say it again, support the team and not the regime. And I think that's basically how football fans in England operate, like Man United. You support the team, but you don't support the Glazers. Liverpool in the past, you don't support John S. Henry with certain... what is that? John Henry? Is it an S in the middle?
No, W.
John W. Henry. I bet you call him a word that begins with an S a fair few times.
And words that begin with W as well.
But yeah, you don't support certain things. He does. I know he does do a fair bit of good though with the stadium and whatnot. Is that
running Liverpool as a business? They've done it fantastically, but running it as a business with the fans' best interest in heart, they haven't done the best job. Like you said, Super League, he was one of the big drivers of it, obviously. And like you said, even though with the case of Man United, where you support the team and not the regime, the green and gold scarves, because they have to say gold because they don't say green and yellow because that got used as a homophobic chant against them. I don't know if you're aware of that one at one point.
No.
But yeah, green and gold as opposed to green and yellow, GAG. But even then, even though I've got no love lost for Man United, do you want to see them get good owners? I hate Man United, but they're a proper team, they're a proud team, and to see Old Trafford falling down, and it's horrible.
But that's the thing, is being a football fan in England, you are literally just, these people who come in they always forget it though. They always just think they are the club. They are just custodians of the club. They're not going to outlast the club. I mean, in certain examples, we have owners in the Football League in England where we've seen on countless occasions them run clubs into the ground. Like Bury comes to mind in teams like that. Those teams narrowly escape that sort of stuff with a last minute sort of takeover and that sort of stuff. But you are always just... They do think they are the club, but they're not the club. They're just custodians, so you are just forced to support the club and not whoever's running the club at that particular moment in history. That's the way it is. That's the way it's going to be forever, I think, now.
What are your thoughts on, because I've been obviously watching the series, what are your thoughts on the way Wrexham's run?
They seem to have more of a hand in the community than most people of their calibre would do, I guess. They really seem to have bought into the historical aspects of Wrexham and what it means to be a Wrexham fan, and sort of straw polling the fans for certain decisions they make. Like, there were certain things about the shirt sponsorship. It's been a while since I've seen the series, but like renaming the stadium, certain corporate decisions that clubs in the Premier League wouldn't give a toss about asking the fans about. Like, as a Newcastle fan, Mike Ashley renaming the St James's Park the Sports Direct Arena, then having to go back on it and call it St James's Park at sportsdirect.com to give it its full title back in the day. Fans are never asked. So I guess the plus point for them is that they're doing similar things to what teams at our level are doing, but they're also taking into account what the fans would want in that situation. Because I guess there would be a situation where the fans wouldn't want the thing happening, but at least they're asking.
Yeah, the fans should always have a voice in the conversation at any level of it. Because like we said before, a football club is not the 11 people on the pitch and the manager. It's you buy your ticket, you buy your membership at the beginning of the season, you are a member of that club. So if you're putting money into it, your voice should matter as much as anyone else's. Yeah,
we could only dream of the 50+1 thing, but that has long gone because money talks and there's too much of it in the Premier League.
I wish some was in my pocket. I'm not saying I can be bought off. I just still need to buy a new chair, Ross.
You not got one yet?
I had to buy a new laptop at the weekend. I'm buggered.
Get it on finance, you silly Billy.
I've got my laptop on finance and buggered, Ross.
So then, after hearing Clive F's plea, please make sure to click on either of these two videos down below, because that's the best thing about the most important thing about YouTube now. Staying on the platform, staying on the channels you like, the more you stay on Hold and Give, the more will get promoted to the masses around the world. So we'll end it there. Click on either of those two videos. They're both great, honestly. I've been Ross Tweddell, joined by Clive F. Any closing remarks there, Clive?
We've got we should have a special for next week because it's my birthday next week, so I'm taking a week off.
Yes, we all do that, to be fair, don't we? If we can, if we've got the days banked up.
Oh God, I've got too many days banked up. It's ridiculous. But 35 next week. That's my Premier League career ended.
Not unless you're James Milner. You've got a bit of James Milner about you. I reckon you're good in a bleep test.
I do have an 8-pack like James Milner as well.
Go on then, take your shirt off. In fact, no, leave it on. Click on those two videos down there. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. Up the Spotify and all that kind of stuff. Up the Hold and Give. We'll see you in person in 2 weeks' time. But for a placeholder, next week, Wednesday, the Hold and Give Football Podcast. You know how it works, and I still can't do an outro, but click the videos down below.
Yeah.